We have two presenters today, Rachel Milne and Russell Moore. Rachel is a project manager for resourcing, bringing positive change in resourcing activities, while securing continual improvement, as well as successfully identifying and closing top industry talent. Russell is a head of resourcing advisory at Aspira and has been working in IT and project resourcing for the last 27 years. Russell is responsible for European sales and account management in Aspira since 2014. Just a little bit of necessary logistics info. We'll keep it brief. Firstly, please note that we have placed you all on mute, simply to reduce any unintended background noise or interference. Despite that, however, we are going to ask you for your comments and questions during the presentation. Please raise these in the Teams chat section, and I will monitor and raise your questions directly with Rachel and Russell to address. Secondly, we will try to address all your queries during the webinar. However, we may not be able to do so in the next 50 minutes, simply due to the number of participants, which is excellent, of course. And in such case, we will be following up with you directly on your specific question. Please don't worry. As long as your query is raised in the Teams chat section here on MS Teams, we will be back with you shortly. Also, please note that this is part of our weekly webinar series, and you will find a link to the webinar series at the end of our presentation today. With all that covered, let us get into the objectives of today's webinar, focused on leveraging and managing the potential of your new remote workforce. To start with, as we want to keep the webinar interactive, we will ask you a couple of warm-up questions. Then, we will be bringing your attention to a few key areas around our topic, namely, assessment advice on maturing the capabilities of your workforce and how they adjusted to remote work, the challenges ahead for office and home workers, hidden talents of your existing workforce and your next 3 hires, hiring and selection strategies for growth, resourcing sans frontières. And we will then address as many questions as we can before wrapping up. And now we'd like to introduce you to Mentimeter. Mentimeter is an audience interactive solution, and as such, I am going to ask you now to please grab your phones and follow the instructions on the screen. Please go to menti.com and enter the code 995052 on your phone when prompted, or use your phone to scan the QR code as shown. And our first question to you is, where are you presently located? Which town or county? And as we see, locations are popping up on the screen. But between our presenters today and myself, we have Cork, where Rachel works, Dublin, where Russell is presenting from, and London, where I am. So this is very interesting to see where you all are right now. And we can actually see the locations. We got Dublin, we got Cork, perfect, welcome. We got Greystone, so again, Ireland. We can see Ireland mostly. We got Madrid, oh, that's excellent. So we got Europe covered as well. Amsterdam, lovely. Copenhagen, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Our next question is, have you been working from home before COVID-19? And we have a couple of options for you. Not at all. Yes, occasionally. Yes, regularly 1 to 2 days a week. And finally, yes, regularly 3 or more days a week. And now we see the answers popping up on the screen again. We have a pretty fair representation of all the options right now, with quite interestingly, 29% or 28% at the moment for not at all. So for nearly a third of participants right now, it's a novelty to work from home. Very interesting indeed. Thank you so much for that. Our next question is, has your job changed since you started working from home? And we have 3 options. Please choose one. Not at all, yes a little, or perhaps yes a lot. As you know, the lockdown started in January with closing down the city of Wuhan in China. And since then, over a third of the world's population has been facing drastic changes being in the lockdown at some point of time. So it's really interesting for us to see, has this affected you and your work life? And as we see, we've got a pretty fair representation of answers right now. Again, almost ideally, 1/3 of you haven't faced any changes. 1/3 of you see some changes, and almost 1/3 sees a lot of changes in their job since they have started working from home. Thank you for that. And finally, we have a question to you about your next 3 hires. So we would like to know whether you think, whether you are in a hiring position or whether you think of your company where you are. And please choose up to 3 options from the ones you have available: project management office, or perhaps IT services, IT support, applications consultancies, software development, training and coaching, HR and resourcing, or sales and account management. And again, we see answers popping up, with the majority so far across software development, project management office, IT services and IT support. And we have applications consultancy and sales and account management as well, with some answers also referring to training and coaching and HR and resourcing. We've got majority right now with project management and project management office. Very interesting indeed. Thank you so much for that. These are all the questions we have to you so far. And what I would like to say is basically thank you so much for your responses, your participation in this impromptu survey. We will be referring to your answers in more detail during our session today. I know this already, but for those of you who don't know us yet, Aspira is a specialist project management consultancy and IT services firm with 6 key offerings, as shown, and offices in Dublin, Cork, Abu Dhabi, and Amsterdam. Established in 2007, the company now employs over 160 professional staff and have 227 active clients, including several multinational companies. While in earlier webinars, we explored aspects of project training services and advisory and business applications, in today's webinar, we will focus on the project resourcing. Aspira provides both project resource management and advisory services and offers our consulting resources on a flexible basis to work for our clients on their various IT projects across 24 countries to date. Over the years, we have gained a deep understanding of the methodologies and processes involved in the setup, execution, management, and support of complex projects and technical engagements. We have been on the Deloitte Fast 50 for the past 6 years, and for the past 3 years, we were listed by the Financial Times as one of Europe's 1,000 fastest growing companies. People, processes, tools. All 3 elements are critical to an organization, and with people in particular, as the companies are looking at leveraging and managing the potential of their new remote workforce, something we will discuss in more detail during today's webinar. And with that, I will hand you over to Rachel. Rachel, the audience is yours.
Thank you, Magda, and hello to everyone here today. Thanks for attending. I heard the expression recently that we are not all in the same boat, but it is the same storm. At Aspira, we sailed through the eye of the storm to ensure that we could continue to provide all of our services to our clients and support and protect our staff at a time of great uncertainty. But we realized quite quickly that we would have to reassess the capabilities and needs of our teams and create structure and guidance for our managers. Using an assessment tool to reconfirm people's characters, personality types, and motivations was a good first step to introduce new initiatives and daily routines to settle people into their new environments, into clearer waters, so to speak. A perfect example of same storm, different boat are us 3 presenters on this webinar. Magda is at home in London with 2 small children. Russell is in Dublin with his wife, 2 teenagers and a demanding cat. And I'm in Cork after having just relocated here from where I was initially employed by Aspira as a remote worker in Bristol, England. We all face different daily challenges. Today, I'm going to talk specifically about my team. It was important to me that they adjusted to remote work, but also that we adjusted to them. As we all moved into lockdown, managers and colleagues started to realize they needed to consider other factors, such as who is on their own, who has a full house, is there someone perhaps homeschooling, or are there certain points of the day that someone can take calls in peace and quiet? And with the uncertainty around how long we might all be in this situation, we needed to think long term about the effects working from home might have on the individual. My objective was to identify and make any adaptations or tweaks to the team's daily tasks or job descriptions to better motivate them and make the transition feel seamless. Let me tell you a little bit about the team. The resource acquisition team are based in Cork, Dublin, London, Amsterdam, and the Middle East. We manage international search and selection campaigns to attract top talent to Aspira. We're from a range of backgrounds and nationality, namely Irish, British, Polish, and Italian. I wanted to share a free resource and some tips on how we evaluated some of our current workforce, in this case, the resourcing team, and the feedback the team gave me as we all adjusted to the new normal. The team were asked to spend 15 minutes completing an online psychometric test called 16 Personalities. You can see that the questions ask to rate how much they agreed or disagreed with statements that were provided. The result is one of 16 personality types. These are the results of my psychometric evaluation. Now, you might be familiar with the acronyms. It's become increasingly popular to see it on someone's LinkedIn profiles and on their CVs. If you're not familiar with 16 personalities, you may be familiar with Myers-Briggs, which this is based upon, which was in turn based upon the theories of Charles Jung. And we'll share the website details where you can do the questionnaire on the feedback form at the end of this webinar. Now, look, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in psychometric tests or psychology, and some might say it's controversial or it's been debunked. However, I know it was pretty accurate for me. So let's explore this further. These personality types are based on the principle that humans experience the world in four main functions: sensation, intuition, feeling, and thinking. And to break that down further, the first letter represents introverted versus extroverted. So this is where you get your energy. Introverts get energy from within, so think of them as battery powered, whereas extroverts are recharged from spending time with others. So think of them as solar powered, and appreciate the effect of isolation on these types of people. The second letter is how you perceive life, so sensing or intuition. Sensing means you take in information from the five senses. These are highly practical and down-to-earth people who are good at remembering details. Intuitive people focus on what could be, curious, open-minded, people who think about the what-ifs. The third letter is your decision-making abilities, so thinking and feeling. Thinkers look at facts and figures, enjoy a good debate, and have a logical mind. Feelers base decisions based on how they feel, how it influences their lives, and how likable someone else is. The fourth is your approach to life or lifestyle. Perceiver or perceiving, they would avoid making decisions with a tendency to be spontaneous. And the judger or judging, and this doesn't mean that they're judgmental, it means that they're decision makers and don't like to leave things up in the air. The last letter after the hyphen is either A for assertive or T for turbulent. Assertive individuals are self-assured, even-tempered, and resistant to stress. They're likely to spend a lot of time thinking about their past actions or choices. And according to assertive personality types, what's done is done. Turbulent individuals are success-driven, perfectionist, and eager to improve, but they can also get caught up in endless thoughts of criticism, slights, or regrets. So the questions you are asked on the 16 Personality website categorizes how you feel, act, and communicate, and becomes a sliding scale of these 5 properties. For many years, Aspira have engaged with a workplace psychologist who works with us in a training and employee engagement capacity. He's managed hundreds of these types of tests specifically for project managers. And he shared with me the most common personality profiles for project managers. The findings typically showed project managers to be introverted or extroverted of equal measure, and S, T, or J types. So the majority falling under sensing, thinking, or judging. Maybe you can recognize yourself here without doing the test. So this shows you that each personality type is given an avatar, and for me, it's protagonist. The personality test doubled up as an employee engagement tool and as a team building exercise. We shared our profiles and asked if we thought they were accurate or inaccurate. I mean, this gave us an opportunity to talk about something away from everyday tasks and injected a bit of fun into our conversations. With the move to remote working, it's easy to only talk business or serious topics, and it's easy to forget that when we all work together, we had fun. From the 16 Personality website, you'll have access to the summary of each personality profile. So strengths, weaknesses, workplace habits, career paths. There's even a section on romantic relationships. It depends how much you want to know about your colleagues. From here, I captured personality traits of each of the team's profiles and spent some time learning about their motivators, demotivators, and stressors. What was insightful was that from a team of very different personalities, there are a lot of similar characteristics and even the same personality profiles. Here are some of the personality adjectives from my team. So you can see from this word cloud some recurring themes here. The bigger the word, the more often it appears across the team's personality profiles. So we have communicators, energetic, inspiring, natural leaders, practical. So great team, really good. I then built a profile of the individual and the team with a view to offer differentiation of tasks that I hope would keep them motivated and engaged. Using the findings as a guide, I looked at opportunities to motivate the individual based on the personality profile and how in the new normal we could incorporate this into everyday life. I was able to implement my ideas of changes really quickly and with positive results, and I'll give you some examples here. So I was able to confirm that based on the profile of one team member, they would be the first to put their hand up and volunteer, be enthusiastic, very capable. And of course, these traits I already knew. But what I learned was this personality type was the first to take too much on with no complaint until they were totally overloaded. So now during our daily stand-ups, I pay extra attention to their workload specifically and follow up with the individual to take some of the admin tasks away, which I know demotivates them. Whereas another profile showed someone who enjoyed structure, process, and administrative tasks. So I buddied these two members up to work together and distribute their duties. Creative was another recurring theme, and the evidence of that is in this slide deck. One of my team had a hidden flair for PowerPoint presentations, and I think you'll agree, did an amazing job here. I saw I had personality profiles that were natural communicators. Now, of course, I knew this. Now, these team members are now encouraged to go out to various stakeholders across the business. The 16 personality results alerted me to a weakness that maybe these strong communicators might not always stay on track or might miss some important information when reporting back. So by providing clear expectations of what is required and tools to help them feed back the required information has helped to combat this. Highly organised was another strength, and that person as a result has created a document management system for us. I wanted to make the team as self-managing as possible across business as usual, and I had more than one natural leader personality profile, so delegated chairing meetings to them, whilst taking actions was given to the more process-driven and detail-orientated personality type. And I do, of course, change this up so it gives everyone a chance to develop their skills. So you might have seen this article by LinkedIn last week. Their findings were that remote workers are working on average of an extra week a month. Sound familiar? Common themes were workers are starting over an hour earlier, working through lunch and working through their usual commute times, and it's taking its toll. There's an increased risk of burnout. I encourage my team to set their status to away and step away from their workplace, remembering this could be their kitchen table or their bedroom. I read a survey this week that suggests there are 3 main areas in which managers struggle to engage their remote workers, and I wanted to make sure this wasn't happening to our team. The first one was not recognizing or praising good work. So reward and recognition can be easily overlooked at the moment. Apart from ensuring that you thank your team for their efforts, why not reward them with some time off? 2 hours away from the screen on a Friday afternoon will boost morale and give people a well-needed rest. The second one was not talking to remote workers about career goals and personal growth. So from a career development perspective, employees might find that their development is on pause or just stuck. We have made Aspira's external training courses available to employees and have encouraged the team to take advantage of other training courses the Irish government is subsidising during COVID-19. We also allowed the team to make space in their week to incorporate some of this study time, which in turn is going to benefit everyone. Not providing opportunities to connect with co-workers was the third area. Now, we run weekly events on a Friday, which is work-free chat. We usually run quizzes or games of some sort, and we have rolled out a group wellness program that Russell will talk about later. Another big change for full-time remote workers, and this was expressed as an area of concern by my team, was the increase in Microsoft Teams meetings. Now, you'll probably be aware of the expression Zoom fatigue, stemming from how we process information on a video call and how we have to focus more attention in order to absorb information. There is also what's known as the constant gaze. This is what we do to demonstrate someone has our full attention. It's exhausting. It's scientifically proven to be exhausting. So I would like to share a few tips that I've put in place in response to this. So before scheduling someone's time in a calendar, have a think. Does this need to be a meeting, or can you just call the person? A phone call is a great excuse to get up and away from your desk area. Can you make one meeting a day a walk and talk? Think about if it's a quick question you can ask over instant messenger. I often start my message with QQ, so my team know it's a quick question. Does the meeting need to be an hour? Maybe 30 minutes will suffice, or even 15. If the meeting finishes early, do exactly that. Think twice before you invite the entire company. Limit attendees and update second-tier stakeholders in a follow-up email, or better still, post updates on your Microsoft Teams channel. Put an agenda on the invite, and any reading material like slide decks can be done beforehand, and this will also save time. Lastly, if you're in a meeting about a topic that isn't your specialist field, you probably aren't expected to contribute. We have a natural tendency to try and speak as experts in fields that we just aren't experts in. It's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, and we've all been guilty of this. But the point is here to be humble. It's okay to be silent. It keeps the meeting short and on point. That's all from me. A leaving thought is that all of this is a work in progress for all of us, and we are having to adapt and change daily and weekly. Whilst trying to get the best from our new remote workforce, we're simultaneously reviewing and analysing back to work options, still largely considering individual needs, but I'll leave that to Russell to talk to you about next. Thanks very much.
That's great. Thanks very much, Rachel and Magda, for the introduction. We mentioned earlier about people's processes, tools, and we're starting to touch upon that now as we look at what Rachel's just been describing. All three of us joined Aspira without a physical location office, and we're very familiar with working from home and working with multi-location workforces in Ireland and internationally. And this helps us share these experiences with Aspira staff and our clients. I'll talk through some of the combination of tools, assessments, and engagement management style we've used to try and move with the times, to try and stabilize things and take advantage of some of the opportunities that are out there now and presenting themselves as we come out of lockdown from business continuity planning to business usual and beyond. So we're in the phase 1 phase here in Ireland on reopening, and it's different types of speeds right across Europe and the Middle East. It's also very important to focus on the health and safety of your staff, whilst working hard also to continue providing services and support to your clients, things that Aspira is used to doing on a continuous basis. We're fortunate in the services industry to be able to work from home fairly seamlessly and provide services, but it's not necessarily as easy as that, and we have to recognise the importance of establishing a hybrid office, a work from home office, and an environment to support people and the staff's personal circumstances. It's also important to establish boundaries between home and office and make sure we don't put additional pressure on staff, as Rachel described. In other words, an always-on expectation if you're at home. So we looked at some of the ways that we actually engage with people and our staff, and we tried to actually use that to our advantage and provide better ways of working together. Self-awareness is a really important thing, and that engagement and understanding yourself helps you to understand others as well. And really, as part of that, we looked at the key trends that might be happening. If you're working with a team previously who are based in the office and suddenly notice a change in the way they've been feeling or behaving or performing, maybe not meeting KPIs, it's obviously a warning signal. This is where some of our HR plans came in place to make sure we're talking to people and understanding that they're managing okay and they might need to talk to you about something else. As I mentioned, we come up with some additional ideas, for example, our Tune Up Tuesday, which is part of our wellness program, and our Thoughtful Thursday. As we talk later on about unlocking talents of your people, these are ideas created, designed, and developed and rolled out by our HR teams, helping and supporting people in what is a very difficult and challenging situation. We're carrying out continuous assessments and making sure that people are okay, how they're managing, and looking at adjusting on KPIs. Team KPIs are very good because it creates that foster of in this together type mentality. And as such, we've also looked at people's hobbies and tried to give people time away from the screen. Personally, I'm missing my sport, my coaching, apart from just watching the Bundesliga. And as such, I've been catching up with some films. I'll share some of these with you. I picked out some of these films and I've under the title of Risk and Opportunities. They take on different meanings when we look at ourselves. And when I first mentioned the concept of Castaway, for example, it wasn't taken very well by my co-workers, but there's a great positivity as well and self-awareness and how people can do very well and come out of adversity. Like Shawshank Redemption, which I'm sure you know, and I'm sure you've done the same thing yourselves as you try to get hobbies and make boundaries away from the actual work and gain inspiration in difficult times. So the convenient work office is a different way of describing things. For many, this might be a really good thing. They're working in multiple geographical locations and have more opportunities, not necessarily having to commute and be challenged by the fate they have of people working at home, for example. If they need to buy a home locally, it takes away the challenge that people have been facing recently with rent, or even having to spend more time with parents or children, but still giving a very strong professional performance. It's very important that you recognise this and treat everyone equally. As you do your assessment of future return back into the office, the engagement and talking to customers and the delivery that they're getting from the actual people to working for you is very important. And also look at creativity and innovation. I didn't expect to be producing webinars 2 months ago. This has been a really interesting phase for us. It's been amazing what people have come up with on innovation and creativity to actually drive our business forward. Lots of our offerings were dependent on personal interaction and the way we spoke to clients and customers and went to events. And this has now changed. We had to be very much focused around digital and online, constantly looking at performance, but also making sure and recognizing people have a lifestyle. What particular personal interests have they got that might be beneficial to the company and gives them time out? As we mentioned about presentation skills, it's okay to be normal in the new normal. There shouldn't be that pressure on people just because businesses are under pressure as well. Teasing out hidden talents has been a real pleasure in the last 2 or 3 weeks as we've worked towards seeing and recognizing from our own assessments how we'll actually structure our new teams. And of course, a KPI becomes benefits realization for our clients and the value management of services. And our social interaction is different. Previously, it was very easy to go out after work and celebrate and get together and congratulate someone on something they've done. And now we have to look differently. But we started to realize that we still do live close enough together to maybe go out for a walk, play tennis or golf, and do smaller gatherings, all enhanced by technology as well. So creating groups of people, the same way many of you are doing quizzes with families and the rest. And it's the same in the workforce. Freeing up people's hidden talents is great to actually use some of these things to really enhance the virtual communication experience. And from that, we can look further out because we recognize that business is out there and people like to and want to be successful in their work. Our opportunity within Aspira has been our international expansion. As we look beyond Ireland into the UAE and the Netherlands and further afield into Europe by working closely with Enterprise Ireland, people's interest also reflected further afield in travel. Personally, my love of Europe culturally and professionally. So once this assessment is in place, you have this opportunity to do your resource maturity assessment, which was one of the advisory services that we offer. We've adopted this to adopt to remote working and people working outside the country as well. But the same principle is there. As your team resizes and comes through the storm, you're trying to understand what types of people you might need next, how you evaluate the skills of your current people, and how through training and assessment you can see that people actually can do other things and tasks can be taken on to different challenges, which is very interesting for them as well. This is why we asked the question about your next 3 hires earlier. We have to take advantage of what's happening out in the marketplace. New concepts are really important for your business to survive. The whole online experience, e-commerce, digital marketing, and the general digital transformation that companies have had to make. As part of all of this and part of your plan and the re-evaluation through your resource maturity assessment, you come up with potentially a new org chart altogether. And your new org chart becomes blended. It's really important to recognize that your team are all in different locations and people might have been originally working from home like Magda, or maybe now have taken up the new challenge and happy to work from home and reduce their commute time and have set up their home office, or returning to work in a new different place and new environment. So this constant engagement is really important, the communication, the equal access to ensure your team have all got equal access to all services, all opportunities, growth and development. We work very closely in that in Aspira to make sure that, as we mentioned earlier, career opportunities are not affected by your location, your nationality or whatever. As I said in the book, everyone is equal, but some are more equal than others, and that shouldn't affect us. This helps our clients. We can guide clients through to their own specific journey to success. So therefore, we have to introduce new protocols for hiring new staff. We have to assess the location is critical. Do we decide to hire people who work from home for the full time, forever? Or do we offer the opportunity of a hybrid? And we listen to people's own particular interests and challenges as part of the interview process and see what flexibility we have and they have as well. And these to address the needs of the client. So for example, there can be some really good advantages. The location might work quite well. It might work for a time zone for delivering for a client in a different time zone. Flexible hours and work package work, it might suit a person's childcare or different things you have to manage away from the office, and job shares. This is all part of your planning process. And of course, we focus heavily here on screening. In order for Aspira to recruit internationally now right across different territories, we've had to introduce a lot of new technical testing and vetting, physical proof of certifications of education, face-to-face referencing, software tests. And of course, we also use our own staff, our software developers, our project managers, and other people within the business to interview candidates for the future and ensure that a candidate supplied to a client remotely has been fully vetted and is secure to deliver services on behalf of them and Aspira. Just to illustrate that, there's some case studies here. We spoke a little bit about the Middle East and how we've been servicing our customers there for the last couple of years. And this has been a bit of a journey because we've had to actually understand how we can provide the technology to support clients and customers outside of Ireland. When I joined, we only had one office in Ireland, but now we're operating right across Europe. And this, for me personally, was a great level of satisfaction to be able to do this and expand my own interest in international business development. The technology is all around, as we mentioned earlier, making sure you can screen and test people, have the actual secure transfer of information and data, as we did here for this client. Working closely with the individuals and the client to make sure that the people are screened correctly and processed correctly and can actually deliver the service. And then collaborating, for example, in this case, where we had people working different time zones, different hours. This has been a tremendous success for us in the UAE. Even during lockdown, we were able to support a client in a very difficult situation with a challenge where he needed people very rapidly to start a client project. The client has been delivered and successfully satisfied in the UAE, but the actual people in our resources are based in Ireland and different European countries. And this is what we're calling resourcing sans frontières as part of our business expansion. And of course, it works closer to home as well. It's particularly challenging, for example, in some traditional bodies in the public sector where they're more used to working very much in physical locations. They have their staff close to them. As we mentioned, some of the points earlier that Rachel mentioned about how you get the nuances and things that are important as part of team collaboration. But we've worked closely with our customers by providing technology, so in some cases laptops and teams and setting up people to be able to work remotely, and engaging with people by using our resource assessments and saying to people it's actually okay to have someone outside the building if they're delivering a particular type of work package, software, for example. And it was really great recently to actually go through this whole process with one of the major institutions here in Ireland and come up with a methodology for them to engage with a very niche type of skill, a person working out in Madrid who actually have a very specific software skill they've been looking for a long time. They're comfortable now with the delivery, and he's able to work on international projects. So travel restrictions last year in physical location was becoming a challenge for companies and organisations. I speak personally of experiences in Dublin with commuting and people trying to come into the city and the well-versed issues around trying to find rent and spiralling rent costs for software developers trying to work for our silicon companies in Silicon Docks nearby us. And of course, that's starting to change. There's been a reset. And that is COVID-19. It's not as easy anymore to actually go to the simple measures of bringing someone in for face-to-face interviews to be located close to you or next to you. And you've seen lots of the multinational technology companies already saying they intend to work from home. This creates new opportunities. And just to really share that, say, maybe give you guys some confidence on how you can look forward and develop the new normal, what we'll be calling resourcing sans frontières. It's the international experience is very important. Ireland is a very well received country in lots of locations, and it's very good to start delivering services and expanding outside of that. To be able to do so, you need the resources, the people, the systems, the tools to actually underpin that and be confident that you can actually go outside of your own country and deliver services in the same way that we've collaborated with Enterprise Ireland. But you can also have multi-located teams that could be right across Ireland as well, by having the confidence in the systems and the processes to actually leverage those people, leveraging and managing your resources through resourcing sans frontières. It's great for companies who are successfully digitally enabled, and we can help and support you that within Aspira. So some of the takeaways, planning is everything. I suppose I'm not a project manager, but I do hear there's quite a lot in the day-to-day work that planning is very important. But the continuous assessment that Rachel also described of making sure people are actually just okay with the situation and the change. Dramatic change has happened in the last 3 months, and we can't underestimate how people are feeling as they try to get used to a new and challenging economic environment as well as a new different workplace. And then looking at new innovation and creativity. We've just given you the example from our point of view of resourcing from sans frontières, but I'm sure it's the same for your businesses. I'm sure through e-commerce and digital transformation, you can also do the same thing and look outside of what we've currently been doing and looking into the new normal. You can generate business growth no matter where you live or work. It's just a little bit about this particular tool that we've developed. It's been something that we've been working on anyway in resource management for a long time, and it really focuses on, in a project management capacity, how you plan and staff and organize projects across a whole portfolio of different services and projects you're trying to deliver. But in a remote capacity, that's a different element, and you can really leverage some new types of opportunities from people and really address some of the skill shortages that were happening in January and February, particularly in software and technology, by the use of external resources that come highly screened through highly good systems that we've actually generated on our own applicant tracking systems. And it generally starts with something like a SWOT analysis. And it's something I'm sure your own companies are doing at the moment as you try and handle the fallout from COVID-19. But we can talk about it more if you have any questions later on, or certainly this information is available on our website. And it's part of the tools that we as a company offer and support our customers and clients to try and react and leverage the opportunities that exist for us at the moment. There are discounts available for this particular type of advisory service. And if you've been watching the webinars to date during the whole series, you can access a lot of these things as well through the Aspira website or through connecting one of us directly. We're very grateful for you coming to these types of events, so hopefully we can give you something back as well. The virtual classroom is my final thing to talk about, and something that we're very proud of. Obviously, as the crisis hit, our training offering was badly affected, so our ability to deliver to clients and customers was severely impacted, and it affected lots of people, or could have affected lots of people if we didn't use our innovation and creativity to come up with a different way of working. And of course, I know lots of environmentalists will find this quite good as well. But a virtual classroom is somewhat different because it really gives you the personal feel of the trainer. It's not online training. And it helps us to continue to deliver services through a different media. And you can actually use this type of technology for lots of different things like team meetings and groups, conferences and presentations, which we can talk about as well. And just to really underpin this, and we talk about KPIs and satisfaction around our customer client base, we use things like customer loyalty assessments, and we ask you for feedback as well as part of this webinar, to use net promoter scores to ensure our services are up to date and still managing to be successful to clients and satisfaction. This particular offering was very consistent at a personal level of delivery back in January and February to our new virtual classroom as well as we've gone forward through the crisis. So you'll excuse me for talking about it again in this webinar. So with that, I'm finished. Thanks so much for listening today. I'll hand you back now to Magdalena to carry on with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Russell, and thanks so much, Rachel, for your part earlier. And before we move on to the Q&A section, if you could please spare a minute and complete the feedback form. QR code is shown on the slide right now and link in the chat box. We would be very grateful. This is basically to help us improve our future webinars. And now we will be moving on to our Q&A section of the presentation. We received few very interesting questions. I'm going to read them right now. We've got a question about a lack of face-to-face interaction. Without face-to-face interaction, we are missing lots of non-verbal cues and body language, so it can be difficult to capture the full message, perhaps even misinterpret. How can we get around this? And there's also another part in a separate chat. I also think that we can't just grab a colleague for 5 minutes to help answer quick question. I guess instant messaging is the best solution, but you are often competing against many other things going on in the screen. And that's the question. Perhaps, Rachel, would you be able to answer that? We can't hear you, Rachel.
Yes, I completely understand this because you're on a conference call, people don't have their videos on, you know, it's a stunted kind of unmute when they want to talk. So you're also missing out on the kind of utterances of agreement or disagreement, you know, the and the nodding of the head. Plus people are distracted, you know, you've got the phones in front of them, kids, delivery drivers at the door as well. And then, yeah, people can go away with different interpretations of the message that was delivered. So, I mean, my advice would be to encourage everyone to have their video on to capture that non-verbal body language, those nods of agreement. And I think people now need to use clearer and more direct language now, because, you know, you can have problems, audio problems and video problems, so it's kind of like needing to get to the point quicker. So I guess another thing you mentioned there was you can't just grab a colleague now. So before you could sort of stick your head out the door and say, hi, do you have 5 minutes? And yeah, you can't really do that anymore. So I think we're all trying to find out what the new etiquette is. You know, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment as well. What I usually do is call that person separately and ask them if they would come into our meeting to get some, you know, to get their input. And another key thing, I think, if you're trying to make sure that all of the stakeholders are in the loop. So you could set up a Microsoft Teams channel where you're posting updates and you can review and reply to the specific person. I mentioned this earlier in my presentation. So this data is then consumed on demand, and all the information is stored centrally, so you can keep all the stakeholders abreast of the project or the topic without sending everyone a barrage of emails, which is one of the main stresses for extroverts, by the way. And yeah, I mean, that would be my advice on that.
Excellent, thank you so much. Another question we have is, how do you verify that a new remote worker is gelling with the team, fitting in and feeling involved? I can answer that question, actually. I believe it all starts with the recruitment and with getting that person on board into your organization in the first place, where you're trying to get to know them a little bit better right there and then. And then I would say another key part would be to try and organize some sort of meetings with the team specifically for that person, to introduce them into the team and make them feel a little bit more welcome. And perhaps also you have those colleague systems or buddy systems in place. I think that would work very well, especially in a larger team, where you pair them with somebody who's already in that team and in that organization, and they can be in line in liaising with that person on a more regular basis, asking them how they are doing, whether everything is okay, do they need any help. And it would be more than just making sure their work performance is okay. It's more about how they feel and whether they feel they belong into the team. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here as well. Also, just giving them various communication channels to talk to you, both formally and informally. So, you know, the daily stand-ups, they probably they might do a weekly report. You've got the water cooler chats, which are the instant messenger chats as well. So you can give them informal and formal ways to find out, you know, how they're getting on.
Excellent, thank you. We got one more question, actually. Are there any work environments and roles where you think remote working will not suit resources? Russell, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, thanks, Magda. I think there's some very obvious answers from what we've seen of how some key workers have kept our country operational in the last 3 months through very difficult circumstances. So there's some obvious answers there. My wife is cabin crew. I think there's roles obviously that are very obvious, but kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, and also the way we actually hire people. I think looking at people's individual circumstances is really important. That level of engagement when people are onboarding might be as part of the assessment, they actually really enjoy and thrive working inside of office environments or in town, for example. And we all kind of miss that as well. So I don't think it's a one size fits all, and we shouldn't necessarily be forcing remote working on people that don't necessarily want to do that, and it curbs their natural way of delivery and the way they operate. So it's very much a personal thing, I think, and it's something which I think, as you mentioned earlier, to get people engaged from the start and up and running for your company, you have to do that through the assessment at the initial start of a hiring process.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you for your questions. We really appreciate your time and participation today. Please note that we are continuing with our Wednesday webinar series, like mentioned earlier. And then next week, you will hear from Jim Blair, our Director of Software Services. Jim will be discussing ways to deliver software development with remote development in particular in his presentation on DevOps Demystified. Sorry. We hope to see you there. And you can find all the links in the chat box right now. Stay safe. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Great job. Thanks, guys.